June 6, 1944. Thousands of Allied soldiers poured onto the beaches of Normandy under heavy German gunfire. The invasion had begun, an amphibious assault by the Allied forces on the beaches of Nazi-occupied France. It was a triumphant victory for the Allied nations and a key pivoting point in World War II that would change the world, yet very tragic, where thousands of soldiers perished. Its success would decide the outcome of World War II. D-Day, a military triumph and human tragedy. It was the autumn of 1943, and World War II was starting to feel like a hopeless endeavor to the Allies. Adolf Hitler from Germany shared many beliefs with Benito Mussolini of Italy and Hideki Tojo and Hirohito of Japan regarding aggressive expansionism and fascism, a political ideology giving total power and dictatorship to one party. These beliefs and the fact that they shared the same enemies, Italy, Germany, and Japan decided to become friends. Their alliance, called the Axis of Evil, terrorized the rest of the world, murdering hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians for no ethical reasons. When France was occupied by the Nazi forces in the summer of 1940, their power became a big threat to the Allied nations, the USA, the UK, France, the Soviet Union, and other Commonwealth countries. The Allies began to feel wary of the growing power and intensity of the German war machine, as France would become an important source of resources and wealth for Germany's growth and power. Since 1940, the Allies had attempted and failed many times to try and nullify the German domination of Europe. The invasion of Dieppe, France, left 4,000 Canadian soldiers dead because the Germans were well prepared. So, the Allies needed to think of new ways to stop the Axis powers. The planning of D-Day, also known as Operation Overlord, started with a dinner of the Big Three in Tehran in 1943 between Stalin of the USSR, President Roosevelt of the USA, and Prime Minister Churchill of the UK. Stalin proposed an invasion of Nazi-occupied France as a final attempt to liberate France. The Big Three agreed to invade in May of 1944. They would need to land over 150,000 soldiers on the beaches of Normandy. Young men from every family would be drafted for this assault and asked to sacrifice their lives. But this time, the attack would be different. New technologies would be put to the test. Crucial plans for deception would have to be used for this assault to work. The Allied forces made a plan to deceive the Germans by sending out misinformation about the Allied army's size and position. The 20 Committee, also known as the Double Cross, who were in charge of planning the deception, used a variety of techniques to trick the Germans about when, where, and how the soldiers would be deployed. They used film images of fake armies in different strategic locations. King George VI was asked to act impressed by a fake army in a broadcasting so the world would believe this deception. It also turned all of Germany's spies into double agents who flooded the German embassy with misleading or useless information. One double agent, Juan Puyo Garcia, created 27 fake German agents that convinced Nazi leaders that they were very informed, so well that the Germans awarded him with the Iron Cross for his so-called excellent spying. The Allies got lucky when the British found an intact German code machine with code books inside a captured German submarine. As the future German messages intercepted showed that the Germans believed the information the 20 Committee sent through the double agents, the deception was confirmed to have worked. Operation Neptune, the name for the invasion itself, was aimed for May 1st, 1944. Last-minute practice sessions to train the mercenaries had to be added to the schedule, and the date for the true invasion was postponed to June 5th. However, when the day came, the weather in the English Channel did not cooperate, preventing the amphibious troops from setting their way toward Normandy. James Stadd, a British Royal Air Force meteorologist, predicted a period of calm the next day, providing a window of opportunity for the invasion to take place. June 6, 1944 would witness the largest amphibious invasion in history.
I was on a troop ship going. I didn't know where I was going. See, they don't tell you.
Operation Neptune was a go. 23,400 airborne troops parachuted onto the bases on Normandy. 700 British soldiers took important batteries despite many casualties. Mine-clearing tanks thrashed the sand to create pathways for Allied soldiers who cautiously disabled mine threats surrounding the tanks. Then, the tanks and flamethrowers came, throwing themselves at the Germans. Finally, the landing craft arrived, with thousands of mercenaries flooding onto the beaches of Normandy. Throughout the battle, every moment was filled with the death and heroic actions of soldiers on both sides.
Even under fire, I was never frightened. I don't know how you want to look at that. I've been fired on by 8-inch guns. but not. I didn't want to stay. I wanted the ship to leave, which we did. But as to be frightened, no, I've never been frightened.
Soon the Allies took the 5 beachheads, Omaha, Juneau, Sword, Gold, and Utah, and proceeded to capture Caen, an important checkpoint in German-occupied France. Although the Allies completed their missions, the German defenses of the Atlantic Wall caused a historic bloodbath on both sides. D-Day had disorganized the German troops in France, giving them very little room to turn around. The French resistance destroyed many important factories, railroads, and communication services in German-occupied France that slowed down the German response to D-Day, which set the stage for capture of Cherbourg on June 26, 1944, an important checkpoint for liberating Paris. On August 25th, the Allies were able to finally liberate Paris with massive success as the Germans retreated. None of this would have been possible without the D-Day success. The high morale for the leaders who participated in D-Day kept the Allies pushing forward to eventually defeat Germany and the Axis powers. Most importantly, it ended World War II and saved the rest of the world from the inevitable Nazi occupation. The few who survived the war were honorably discharged from duty and were remembered for their work in ending World War II. But the calamities were unbearable. With the Atlantic Wall crumbling before the bodies of the dead, D-Day was a time of death. A total of over 425,000 soldiers were killed. In the cemeteries of D-Day, the melancholic aura is one of tragedy. Death rings in the air, for the actual assault made young German and Allied souls sacrifice their lives, with many others severely injured or missing or torn apart from their families. Of those who lived, the gloomy air in the cemetery constantly reminds them that they will never see their fellow soldiers again. Despite the tragedy, D-Day was a massive military triumph, with the Allies winning crucial battles in Nazi-occupied France, a turning point leading to the defeat of the Germans that ended World War II. New revolutionary technologies were proven successful on the battlefield: powerful radio technology, code machines, new amphibious vehicles, and an important learning experience for future military strategists. With them came the promise of a brighter future, which would begin the advanced era of industrialization and improve the safety and quality of human lives.
If it hadn't happened, we'd probably all be speaking German.
Germany was absolutely devastated by the World War II. No city building was spared by the Allied bombing. More than 4 million German soldiers and civilians were killed. The German government was tasked with a war debt of $23 billion. This all seemed impossible to bear, but the German resolve and character proved the strength of human will, sacrifice, and resilience that made Germany the 4th largest economy in the world today. To support the nations that were battered by World War II and to prevent large-scale future wars, the Allies created the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. The Germans also joined NATO in respect of those fallen during the war. Today, NATO includes 29 member nations. Organizations like NATO have helped in solving disputes that might become major wars and is one of the main reasons for current peace, along with the United Nations. This year marks the 75th anniversary of Operation Overlord, the Allied invasion of Normandy, or D-Day. By remembering D-Day, feeling the sadness and sorrow of the tragedy, we are telling ourselves to avoid any human display of evil, big or small. This presentation is our attempt to commemorate the Allied triumph and the tragedy of veterans of World War II that ensured a brighter future for generations to come, and to provide a small glimpse into the heroes of the past. The success of D-Day showed that the Allied nations could actually work together, and the connections and friendships created still last today.
Binding together of people who are in trouble. It doesn't always happen, but it happened because of D-Day.